Today on Bench Briefs, we're looking at a recent Supreme Court of Canada decision that delves into the complexities of criminal law and procedural fairness. The case R.V. Berg, decided in June 2026, examines how courts assess evidence and apply legal standards when serious charges are involved. It's a great example of how the highest court balances the rights of the accused with the interests of justice. So, what happened in R.V. Berg? At the center of this case is Mr. Berg, who faced criminal charges stemming from alleged misconduct. While the specific details of the allegations are sensitive and complex, what's important is the context in which the charges arose and how the legal system responded. The case went through the usual channels, starting at trial, moving through appeals, and ultimately landing before the Supreme Court. Along the way, the courts grappled with the nature of the evidence against Mr. Berg, how it was presented, and whether the procedures used in his trial met the high standards required by law. The key facts are fairly straightforward but critical to understanding the legal questions. Mr. Berg was accused of criminal acts that, if proven, could carry serious consequences. The trial involved a careful examination of witness testimony, documentary evidence, and expert opinions. Both the Crown and the defense had strong arguments about what the evidence showed and how it should be interpreted. Prior courts had already made rulings on certain procedural matters, but the Supreme Court was asked to clarify some fundamental points about how the law should be applied in cases like this. At the heart of the Supreme Court's review were several important legal issues. First, the court needed to decide how to interpret the criminal law principles relevant to the charges against Mr. Berg. This included questions about what kinds of evidence are admissible, meaning what evidence can be considered by the judge or jury, and whether the evidence presented was sufficient to support a conviction. The court also examined the proper standard for assessing Mr. Berg's conduct. In criminal law, determining whether someone's actions meet the threshold for guilt often involves nuanced legal tests that weigh intent, knowledge, and behavior in context. Another major issue before the court was procedural fairness. This concept ensures that the accused receives a fair trial, including the right to know the case against them, the chance to respond, and the assurance that the court follows fair processes. Mr. Berg's legal team raised concerns about whether these standards were fully met during his trial and appeals. Finally, the court considered whether any constitutional questions were implicated, for example, whether Mr. Berg's rights under the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms had been infringed. Why does this case matter beyond the immediate parties involved? R.V. Berg highlights how the Supreme Court continues to shape the landscape of Canadian criminal law, particularly around evidentiary standards and procedural fairness. These principles are foundational to ensuring that justice is done, not just in one case, but across the entire system. By clarifying how courts should handle evidence and assess conduct, the ruling provides guidance to lower courts, lawyers, and accused persons on what to expect and how to prepare. Moreover, the decision underscores the delicate balance between protecting society and safeguarding individual rights. Criminal law must be rigorous enough to address wrongdoing, but it must also prevent miscarriages of justice through unfair trials or improper evidence. The Supreme Court's judgment in R.V. Berg reinforces that this balance requires careful judicial scrutiny at every stage. In practical terms, this case will influence how future criminal trials are conducted, especially in cases involving complex or contested evidence. It serves as a reminder that procedural fairness is not a mere formality, but a vital part of the justice system's integrity. For anyone interested in criminal law or the broader themes of justice and fairness, R.V. Berg is a significant decision to watch. Thanks for listening to Bench Briefs. We hope you found this overview of R.V. Berg insightful and thought-provoking. Be sure to join us next time for another deep dive into important Canadian legal decisions shaping our society. Until then, take care.